Hey everybody, welcome back. And today I just have a really quick video where I want to talk about some of my favorite eye brushes. And these are just brushes that I use. I've been finding myself using every single day. And these are brushes that I tend to have multiples of. I think there's one in here that I don't have multiples of, but we'll talk about that when we get it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to start talking about them in the order that I use them. So the first one is the BRC S02 brush. Now this is one of those brushes that I love. It's great for packing on eyeshadow. I don't like to use it to pack on like shimmery eyeshadow, but matte eyeshadows are great. It's got a pinched ferrule, so it is flat, but it's still kind of fluffy. It's one of those brushes I call flat but fluffy. I like using this brush to place shadow all over from the lash line to the brow bone. I also like to use it to really reiterate my brow bone color, my starting color once I have finished my eye look, because it just fits so beautifully underneath the brow bone. But another reason why I really like a brush like this, and I do have quite a few of these, is because even though it is flat and it's got some density to it, it's fluffy, so it's multi-purpose for me. So if I want to pack on shadow, I'll lay it flat like that, and I can just flip it to where it's vertical and it's fluffy enough to where it can help blend out whatever I've got underneath my brow bone in my transition shade to really get rid of any harsh lines, any lines of demarcation in my eyeshadow. So I love this. I have this brush in a bunch of different iterations. I have the one from the vegan collection from BH Cosmetics. I also have one from Flower called the Flower EO1 brush that I like to use, but this one is my favorite and I do have several of these. The next brush that I always use in my routine, eyeshadow routine, is the brush I use to lay down my transition shade. And for me, that is the Wet n Wild Fluffy Brush. I love this brush. This brush is $1. It's so soft. It works so well. I have like 5 of these because I go through them like crazy and they're $1. This is just my absolute all-time favorite fluffy brush. Again, it's got a nice shape to it. It's, for being $1, it's really, really soft. So it's got a nice shape to it. It's not the most perfectly cut brush ever, but it's got a little bit, just the tiniest little bit of a dome to it, but I love the density in it. It's fluffy, but it still retains some density, so it is great for really, if I really want to get on there and just lightly dust some eyeshadow in the transition, it's perfect for that. And if I really need to get in there and blend it out, because it's retained some density, it's good for that as well. So what I like to do is I like to use this as my first transition shade, which is just slightly darker than my skin tone or maybe my skin tone. And then I like to use my actual transition shade, which I will deepen up my crease with, and I lay it down first with this brush and really blend it out so that I get that nice seamless transition. So if you have not checked out the Wet n Wild eye brushes, this one is definitely a favorite. I use this brush every single day. So the next step in my eyeshadow routine is to really deepen up the transition. So for that step, I like to use my BR250 brush from Coastal Scents. I have like 6 or 7 of these because again, I use them every day. So again, this brush does have a pinched ferrule, so it's got a nice taper to it. It's got a little bit of a dome cut to it. And I will say these are cheap brushes. I mean, these are like $2.50. I probably had mine for 5 or 6 years and they're still hanging in there. Now, each one, I do find that each one of these brushes, the more I use them, they kind of take on their own personality. Some are fluffier, some retain their shape a little bit better. So just be aware when you're buying a cheaper brush, that can happen. So this one actually has retained its shape pretty well, and it's got a nice, it still has that nice pinch to it. I do have some that are a little bit fluffier, but I just think this brush is so great because it fits in my crease so beautifully. And on top of that, again, I can bring it up. Once I've deposited most of that color, I can bring it up and really blend it out into the shadow work that I've done with my Wet n Wild Fluffy Brush. So this is absolutely an essential brush for me. This is my favorite crease brush of all time, and I adore it. Plus you can get it for like $2.50 when they have a sale. Can't beat that. And just to mention it, this is a relatively new brush to my collection, and I have been using these kind of interchangeably. This is the Sigma E25 brush, and this one is, you know, it's a more expensive brush and it's going to be a little bit higher quality, and it is definitely more pinched than the Coastal Scents, but it definitely gives me the same vibe. And I'll use this one. So recently what I've been doing is using this one for my transition to deepen it up, and then the very deepest shade I put on my eye, I'll use this brush for, and I will really get it in the crease in the outer V. So just an honorable mention, but the BR250 is probably my all-time favorite, most used, most loved shadow brush. It has been with me since I started my channel. So the next step in my eyeshadow routine is applying a shimmer to my lid generally. I'm generally going to apply some kind of shimmer metallic shade, and for that I love this brush. This is a beat up old brush. It's from a brand called Mash, and I got this from a friend in a big set of like 36 brushes, and it came, half the brushes, she got it off Amazon, I think. Half the brushes are this type of flat shader brush. I completely got rid of the fluffy brushes and the powder brushes because they were so scratchy, but these make the best brushes. If I can find them, I'll link them down below. They're just a dense flat brush, and they apply my shadow so well. I have used this brush for years and years and years, and again, I have them in all, I probably have 10 of them in all different shapes and sizes. This just happens to be my favorite one right now because it just fits so perfectly just right to paint that shadow along my lower lash line. So I'll get that shadow on the brush, spray it down with some setting spray, and then just paint the color on my eye, and it really delivers the most impact. So just a little no-name brush, but I absolutely love it. Again, it was the brand is called Mash. I don't know if you can see it there. So if I can find these on Amazon, I will link them because this is a fantastic brush. I love, 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 love this brush. The next brush that I use in my routine lately has been this little pencil brush from BH Cosmetics. And I've got to say this, I think this came in a set from like 2015 that came in like the pink or the purple crocodile set. If I can find it, I'll link it down below. But I love this pencil brush. It's got some denseness to it, but it's still soft, so it's great. It is a great brush for laying down color right underneath the lash line and blending it out and getting a deep color underneath the lash line, but not too intense to where it looks funky. I absolutely love this brush. I also love this brush to place my inner corner highlight in my inner corner. I just think this is such a multi-purpose brush, and I absolutely have been reaching for this every time I've been doing my makeup lately. It's just a little no-name pencil brush from BH Cosmetics. I mean, it has a name, we know where it comes from, but definitely not something that is cutting edge or trendy, but it's been with me for probably 4 or 5 years now, and I love it. I use it all the time. The final brush I want to talk about is the Coastal Scents BRC S06 brush. I love this brush, and I use this brush for one purpose. I use it to blend out eyeshadow on my lower lash line. Again, it's got a nice pinched ferrule to it. It's almost shaped like the Sigma E25 brush, but it's a little bit longer in the bristles, and it fans out a little bit more, so it's slightly fluffier. But the reason why I like this for blending out shadow underneath my eye is because I think the length of the hair and the length of the cut of the bristles makes it nice and soft and flexible, which when you're dealing with that sensitive skin underneath your eyes, you want something soft, you want something flexible that's not gonna really drag and you know what I mean, not gonna drag and rub on that eye area. And this is, with the shape of it, with the pinched ferrule, it just fits perfectly right underneath that lash line so that I can get in there and really get a nice application and a nice blend without digging into my eye too much. So I absolutely love this brush for that purpose. This is usually the last brush that I use within my eyeshadow routine because that's the last thing that I'm doing on a normal everyday basis. And again, that's the BRC S06 brush. Absolutely adore this brush. I think if you haven't checked out Coastal Scents brushes, I think they are phenomenal for an amazing price. All right, everybody, so these are just my favorite brushes that I have been using every single day. You know, just if I find myself reaching for something over and over and over again, I know it's working for me. But let me know, have you tried any of these brushes or any of these your favorites? I always am interested to hear what's working for you and what you're using. I learn so much from you guys that way. But as always, thank you guys so much for hanging out and talking about makeup with me. I hope you guys have an amazing day, have a rocking week, and I will see you next time. Bye.